Welkom iedereen bij de allerlaatste aflevering van onze agency-serie, waarin wij langsgaan bij het reclamebureau ACHTUNG. Wat vonden jullie eigenlijk van de eerste 2 afleveringen? Laat het zeker even weten hieronder in de comments. Vorige week hebben we dus gesproken met Jasper. Hij is verantwoordelijk geweest voor het creatieve proces van deze campagne. Vandaag gaan we in gesprek met Niklas, die onder andere ook verantwoordelijk is geweest voor creative en het artwork van deze campagne.
Hi, my name is Niklas Kristensen. I'm a creative here at ACHTUNG. I mostly work on cars, such as Volkswagen and Porsche. And I'm pretty decent with a trackpad.
Laten we gaan kijken naar de workspace van Niklas. Maar wat heeft Niklas precies gedaan voor deze campagne?
Again, it was more about just guiding the people that actually had the skill set to pull an image like this off, you know.
Yeah.
So we worked very closely with Magic about creating this image, but so for example, in the case in the film where he talks about that it has to be epic, so we immediately said, okay, the image needs to be epic. And what pops into your mind when you think epic? For me, it's like volcanoes are pretty epic. So we added a volcano, explosions. We have one in the background here, lightning. We even have bats. So all these kind of things to help make the image more epic, we wanted them to add. So I mean, of course, they had tons of ideas in themselves. That's kind of how we ended up like this.
So this is what art director loves.
Well, yeah. In this case, this is what he wants. At the end, this is what he wants. Like this is a little bit of an older version because we originally ended up switching out the axe with a guitar to make it even more epic, but also just to make it even more like fun and absurd. Because a lot of these requests that he makes in the film are also very absurd.
Alright, well it's pretty epic.
Oh, thanks.
Nadat we de workspace van Niklas hebben gezien, gingen we naar de meetingroom om verder te praten over het werkproces van deze campagne. So this is a really big project. What kind of steps did you went through to get to the end result?
Well, I mean, there's of course tons of elements in this project. There is the doll that Chris told you about.
Yeah.
And that had so many like elements. And then there's the commercial itself that also had a bunch of elements. And then there's the image for the commercial that also had tons of elements. So I mean, I think for the image, what it is that you create something roughly yourself in Photoshop, and then you brief the specialty guys on this, and then you review. You go back and forth. You go back and forth, back and forth, and then. For example, like the image the guy has a guitar in his hand. For a long time he holds an axe, you know, and then it's like, now we can make it more epic. Needs to be more epic, but also needs to be more ridiculous so people need to laugh. So it's always like back and forth, and that's kind of it with the image. It's not really that like difficult process. It's more, I think it's sometimes what can be difficult is when you don't have always the skill set to do it yourself, and you have a second party doing it, to sometimes have them understand what you want. And so that took a little bit of back and forth. But that's basically for the image, because the thing that happened with the campaign was that it started off just being for Benelux, where we just did the film. And then we did the film, and then Benelux showed it to Global, and then Global loved it. And that's kind of how a little guy over there came alive.
So how do you keep a structure within a project that is so long?
Well, it's kind of like, because you divide it. It's kind of like you making, let's say you make a dish, like a food dish.
Okay.
Then you kind of separate it in different components, you know? Yeah. Like you make spaghetti, so you make a pasta, you make the meat sauce, and you make a meatball. So you kind of divide it, and within that you kind of like, okay, now these are done, now these are done, now these are done. So we kind of you do the exact same thing. For the commercial, you kind of do the commercial separately. And then you have tons of steps that you keep track of within the commercial. Yeah. For the image, you do the same, so you don't always combine them. So it can also be like for example, Jasper could be very involved with the commercial, and I'm not so involved in the commercial because I'm involved in the image, you know. So it's kind of like you kind of also divide it up. So you're not really like you're crossing paths, but you're separating them. I think separation here was key. Right. That we kept it separate. Also, the doll was a completely different thing, because then the film was already done, and then it was just all about the doll. And Jesus Christ, that was a bit of a thing. But you know what I mean? Like, so for us, it's just like that we separate components, and then at the end you then gather them.
Okay, so it's not really different. It's just separation and getting the structure right.
Exactly. I think the only thing is that of course it took so long because it went from like a national, no, like a country campaign to a global campaign, you know.
Yeah.
So that's also so. Before you had 2 people that had to say okay. Now we had 50 people that had to say okay, you know.
Yeah, that takes time.
That takes time, you know. Yeah. And so that's also why like sometimes the process can be a bit like whoa, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So that's why just it's important that you write everything down and just keep very clear like where am I, what still needs to be done, and how do we get there.
So we have a lot of viewers who are a freelancer and they want to do bigger projects. So what is your advice if they want to do bigger projects for bigger clients?
Well, I think a lot of things that could help like is either that you get on like you start freelancing for agencies that has big clients, and then in that way you can show your skill set. I mean, the other way is also like more and more big clients these days have in-house agencies.
Okay.
Which means that a lot of the stuff that they do in-house. So they also have design. Yeah, they have design in-house, for example. Could be. So it could also be that you just simply call them up and say, hey, do you have an in-house design department? You know, or that's also a way to approach it. But like back in the days, it was like you had to go through an agency, or someone had to see your stuff, or you have a killer portfolio, and you show your stuff, and then they pick it up from there. How we work here is a lot of times we would see books and then we would bring them in and then they would help us do a project.
Okay, so it's about specialization for yourself, because if you can do a little bit of everything, it's now really attractive for an agency.
100%. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to do everything, but what is really key, especially in our industry, is that you know something very, very well. Yeah. Like, I need you because you're very good at 3D modeling and you're very good at 3D modeling dogs. We can even go that like detailed.
Specific, yeah.
You know, because there's also people that are amazing at Photoshop, but then they're very good at the tools, but they don't know how to like compose an image, or like you know, like shading is horrible or whatnot. You know, so I think it's good to have to master the program, but then take it a step further and then become very good at something unique within a program.
And then just shoot at the companies who might need that.
Yeah, or shoot at agencies. It's the same with photography. A lot of times when you look for stuff, it's like a lot of photographers out there are what you call like, in this day and age, you see a lot of them. They're like, they shoot in natural lighting. It means that there are a lot of them Instagram photographers outside, you know. Yeah. But they don't know how to light, for example. They don't know how to set fake light. So I'm like, okay, then I can't really use you for that. I think it's the same a lot of times if you're just really good in Photoshop. I'm like, okay, but you don't really show me that you have a niche. A lot of times I would hire you for like maybe other projects, but I think you also need to but I won't hire you for specific things because I don't know you're good at them. So I think it's also good that you show what you want, like what you burn for, what is your passion within the program. Like I think that's important. But then also I wouldn't just sit back and hopefully to get the phone call. Be active, be proactive, you know. Yeah. Send out your stuff, you know. Talk to people. If it doesn't even like talk to design companies. Hey, you work with them. I think call them up. Say, hey, you work with them. Can I help you with them? Because I'm really good at this, you know. Or you find a niche. For example, you see that a company is working with EA Sports, and they're doing and this specific design agency is doing all the football players. Then you call back the site and say, hey man, I'm awesome at doing football players. Can I help out, you know? Yeah. Thing is also about being proactive, like especially in that sort of things. And then once you've kind of done that, what could happen a lot is like you start at an agency and then you move to the company and just design for them like directly.
All right. Now, thank you for your advice.
Of course, thank you.
Very inspirational. Dit was alweer de laatste aflevering van deze serie. Ik ben benieuwd welke jullie de meest inspiratievolle aflevering vonden. Laat het eventjes hieronder weten. Moeten we zoiets vaker doen? Laat het ook eventjes weten. Bedankt voor het kijken. Doei!